So today's video, we're going to talk about prime factorization and divisibility. So I want to start with these divisibility rules. These are definitely rules that you should already know how to do, and if you don't know how to do them, you always will have this sheet to look at. These are just good rules for number sense. And number sense really helps when we're talking about prime factorization. So as we move on, so I want you to recall that a prime number is only divisible by 1 and itself. So just to give you an example of some prime numbers, 2 would be a prime number, 3 would be a prime number, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, these should be looking very familiar to you by now, 23, and so on. So lots of prime numbers. Those are numbers that only 1 times 2 equals to 2. We can't multiply it any other way. All right, so if we look at 81, let's write that as a product of primes. Now I just kind of want to remind you, product, what does product mean? Product means multiplication, and primes are these prime numbers, 2, 3, 5, 7, or so on. All right, so 81, what does that break up into? We can't always start with a prime number, so let's just start with some numbers that we know. You should know for sure that 81 is equal to 9 times 9. Well, what can I multiply to give me 9? Is it only 1 and 9? I don't think so. I think it's 3 times 3. And this one is 3 times 3. And if we look, 3 times what gives me 3? Nothing. So 3 is prime. Therefore, 81 as a product of primes is equal to 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Or if you want to get super fancy and use the notation that we just learned last night, it would be 3 to the 4th power. Let's look at one more example. So 1,125. Now, there are 2 different ways to do it, and they might look familiar to you. So this one I'm going to do 2 different ways. So I'm going to start with 1,125. For my divisibility rules, we know that okay, so we know it's divisible by 5. 5 times what? 5 times, you can use your calculator if you need help on this, but 5 times 225. So again, my number ends in 5, so I know for sure that 5 goes into it. And this becomes 5 times 45. And now it comes down to numbers that we should know. 45 is what? 5 times 9. And 9 is 3 times 3. And so if I were to write this as a product of primes, usually we put it in order from smallest to biggest. So this would be 3 times 3 times 5 times 5 times 5. And again, if you want to get fancy like we did last night, it will be hard to write it like this on your Google form, but you can write it as 3 to the 2nd times 5 to the 3rd. Okay, and just one other way I want to show you, because maybe you've seen it this way and maybe you prefer it this way, but this is the repeated division. So I'm going to divide by 5, and what does that equal to? 225. Again, I'm going to divide by 5. And what does that equal to? 45. Again, I'm going to divide by 5. And that's going to give me 9. And how do I get 9? 3 times 3. So if you can look, we have all of our prime factors on the outside of our division sign. And so our answer here would be 3 to the second times 5 to the third. Okay, so just a little reminder, you can choose either way. Either way does not matter to me. You're probably going to have to write it out like this on your Google form because it's very hard to do the exponents on the Google form. So, your problems to try for tonight. I want you to, again, do all of your work on a separate sheet of paper. Make sure you show your work and fill out your Google form. There are also a few extra questions on the Google form regarding the divisibility rules.